Driving the night shift is its own world. Hours of highway stretching out, the hum of the engine, the steady beam of the headlights cutting through the dark. You get used to the solitude, the way the rest stops and truck stops feel like little islands in an ocean of black. Most nights are just long stretches of road, the occasional passing car, the rhythm of the miles. But sometimes the quiet and the dark hide things you don't expect. It was one of those nights, running a long haul across the country. Just past the halfway point, the highway narrowed a bit, flanked by dense woods on either side, no towns for 50 miles back, another 100 ahead, just trees and pavement. My eyes were starting to feel the miles, the kind of tired that settles deep in your bones. I was looking ahead, focusing on the white line disappearing under the truck, when I saw something different on the horizon. Not headlights. Not the flashing of a police car or a broken-down vehicle with hazards on. These were different. Small, maybe 2 or 3 of them, low to the ground, flickering faintly near the edge of the woods, just off the road shoulder. They weren't bright enough to be streetlights, too spread out to be from a single machine. My tired brain tried to make sense of it. Campfire. Too small construction. Not out here. The further I drove, the stranger they looked, not shining outwards, but sort of contained, pulsing with a soft, uneven glow. And they seemed to be arranged in a line, leading away from the highway into the thick trees. As I got closer, the highway took a slight bend, and I could see the lights more clearly. They were set just off the pavement, small lanterns maybe. But what were they doing there? And then I saw something else, pulled off onto the almost non-existent shoulder, nose pointed towards a narrow, unmarked dirt track that disappeared into the trees, was a beat-up van, dark-colored, old, the kind you wouldn't expect to see parked out here at night, especially without lights on. No hazards, no headlights, just sitting there in the darkness, the weird flickering lights lining the edge of the woods nearby. Every instinct screamed to just keep driving, to floor it, leave the strange lights and the creepy van behind, pretend. I never saw them, but the van was parked tautly, almost blocking the entrance to the dirt track, and those lights. What were they? A morbid curiosity, or maybe just the strange logic that kicks in during long, lonely drives, made me slow down. What if someone was hurt? What if this was something I needed to report? I tapped the brakes, the big rig slowly coming to a stop 100 yards or so from the van. Silence rushed in as the roar of my engine settled, just the ticking of the cooling metal, the faint sound of the wind high in the trees. I sat there for a minute looking, still no lights on the van, the strange flickering lights near the woods didn't change. The woods themselves felt like a solid black wall standing right next to the highway. Thick, impenetrable, they felt. Heavy, watching. The feeling was strong enough to make the hair on my arms stand up. Against my better judgment, I decided I had to see, had to know what was going on. It was stupid, I know. Getting out of the truck felt like stepping onto the moon, alien, exposed, utterly alone. I grabbed my heavy flashlight, swung open the door, and dropped to the pavement. The air was colder than it had been inside the truck, still quiet. The silence here wasn't peaceful. It felt like the world was holding its breath. I kept the truck lights on, aiming them vaguely towards the van and the edge of the woods. Walking towards the van, the gravel crunched loud under my boots. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, jumping nervously from tree to tree. The van was definitely empty from what I could see through the dusty windows. No one in the driver's seat, no movement inside. The driver's side door was unlocked, but I didn't open it. That felt like crossing a line I wasn't ready for. I focused on the flickering lights at the tree line. As I got closer, I saw they were indeed lanterns, small ones, maybe a foot high, the kind you'd take camping, but old-looking, set in a line, maybe 10 feet apart, leading off the shoulder onto that narrow dirt track into the woods. And near the first lantern I saw it, fresh tire tracks, not from my truck, not from the van, deeper tracks, like from a smaller truck or a heavier vehicle heading into the woods, and beside the tracks, smudges on the dirt that looked like something heavy had been dragged, a cold not formed in my stomach. This wasn't a breakdown. This wasn't camping, this was something else. My flashlight beam swept the ground again, quicker now. I saw more disturbed earth near the edge of the track, like something had been covered up, then maybe uncovered. Again, the air here felt different too, not just cold, but heavy, still, and I could smell something faint under the pine needles and damp earth, a metallic smell, slightly sweet and deeply unsettling. I straightened up slowly, scanning the impenetrable wall of trees around the dirt track. That feeling of being watched was back, stronger than ever. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It felt like concrete eyes were tracking my every move from the darkness. My flashlight beam seemed weak and small against the vastness of the black woods. Every shadow felt like a hiding place. Then I heard it, a soft snap like a twig breaking, not far off, maybe 20-30 feet into the woods, off to my left. I froze, clicking off my flashlight instantly, plunging myself into near total darkness. Relying only on the faint light from my truck far behind me and those weird, flickering lanterns, my heart was pounding. I held my breath, listening. The sound didn't come again. But the silence afterwards felt different, charged, like something was waiting just beyond the edge of the light. I strained my eyes, trying to pierce the blackness. Was that a shape near that big oak tree? Just a deeper shadow? Or was it moving? I couldn't be sure. But the feeling of being watched was so intense it felt like a physical pressure. It was them. Whoever owned the van, whoever made the tracks, whoever put out the strange lights, they were in the woods, and they knew I was here. Another sound. A low, guttural cough, closer this time. To my right, definitely human. My stomach bottomed out. There was more than one, and they were close, moving around me, using the trees for cover. I backed away slowly, silently, towards the highway, towards my truck. Each step felt dangerously loud. I kept my eyes fixed on the tree line, trying to spot movement, a shape, anything. Then two figures stepped out from the darkness at the edge of the dirt track, maybe 50 feet away. They didn't move quickly, didn't shout, they just appeared. Tall shapes, hard to make out details in the dim light and the distortion of the flickering lanterns. One seemed to be holding something long, maybe a tool, maybe something else. They just stood there, silhouetted against the black woods, facing me, watching me. Their presence felt heavy, menacing, even without a word spoken. Their being there was the threat, that was it, the limit. I spun around, not caring about silence anymore, and sprinted back towards my truck. My boots pounded on the pavement. I heard sounds behind me, then not shouting, but movement. Quick steps hitting the dirt track, the rustle of leaves, the cracking of branches as the figures moved out of the woods. They weren't running full speed after me yet, but they were moving, following. I reached the truck, fumbling with the handle, scrambling inside the cab, slammed the door shut, locked it instantly. My hands shook as I jammed the key in the ignition. Turn, engine groaned, caught, put it in gear, foot on the gas, tires squealed. On the pavement as I pulled back onto the empty highway, I didn't even look in the rearview mirror right away, just focused on getting distance between me and that place. Miles flew by, 5 miles, 10 miles. My heart slowly stopped hammering. Against my ribs, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Nothing but empty highway behind me, disappearing into the black. No headlights gaining, no van roaring up from behind. They hadn't pursued me onto the highway. Why? What were they doing out there? What was in that van? What was in the woods? What did they want? I drove for another hour, pushing the rig faster. Then I should have adrenaline still pumping through me. Didn't stop until I hit the next big truck stop, the lights and other people a welcome, almost overwhelming sight. I pulled into a spot, engine still running, hands still shaking slightly. I sat there for a long time, trying to process what happened. I called the police from the truck stop, told them about the van, the lights, the tire tracks, the figures, gave them the mile marker, the description of the area. They sounded professional, said they'd send a unit to check it out. I waited, hoping they'd find something, find them. They called back a few hours later, said they found the van parked just like I said, empty, no sign of anyone in the area. They followed the dirt track into the woods a little ways, saw some tire tracks, but didn't find anything specific or obvious. No body, no clear evidence of a crime, just a strange, abandoned van and some tracks leading into the trees. They said they'd keep the van for a bit, see if anyone claimed it, keep an eye on the area, but basically nothing, no answers. The experience stays with me, the feeling of being utterly alone and then suddenly, terrifyingly, not alone at all. The knowledge that there are things happening out there in the darkness, in the deep woods off the empty highways that we don't understand, things that people are hiding. I still drive the night shifts, still log the long miles, but that feeling, the one that settled on me in the silence outside the truck, the feeling of the woods watching, the chilling sight of those figures emerging from the black, it never really leaves. Some secrets, I learned that night, are buried deep, and the people who bury them don't like to be disturbed. And sometimes the scariest thing isn't what you see, but the questions that linger in the dark after they're gone. Story 2. We wanted to find peace, real quiet, not just a park, but deep woods. A trail miles from any town, any road with traffic noise. It felt like a way to clean out the noise in our heads, just get lost in nature for a few days. We picked a spot known for being remote, somewhere few people go. The woods here were thick old trees, the kind that make you feel small. It felt peaceful walking in, the air clean and still, but there was something about the quiet here that felt different, not empty, but waiting. Heading in, leaving the car far behind, the trees closed in, the light changed, got greener, softer. We walked for hours, deeper and deeper. The only sounds are steps and the rustle of leaves. No cell signal, of course. It was exactly what we wanted, to be completely cut off. A true escape. We set up camp near a small stream, the sound of the water a welcome break in the intense quiet. But even as the fire crackled that night, the quiet of the woods outside felt heavy. The first strange thing happened that night after the fire died down. We were tucked in our sleeping bags, listening to the night sounds. Then we heard something else, a sound that didn't belong, a faint, mechanical sort of clicking. Stop, start, like some old machine far off in the trees. It lasted only a few seconds, then stopped. We looked at each other. Animal? I whispered. My friend shrugged, sounded weird. We listened hard, but it didn't come back. We told ourselves we were just jumpy, new to the deep woods silence. The next day we decided to explore off the main trail, just a little, following the stream. We walked for maybe an hour, pushing through thicker brush. The trees seemed closer. Here the woods felt darker, even in daylight. That feeling of being watched came back, stronger this time. Not just the usual feeling of nature surrounding you, but like eyes were on us. We tried to laugh it off. Then we saw them, scratched into the bark of a few old trees, rough symbols, not like hiking markers, not carvings, just jagged lines, circles. Strange shapes. They looked old, weathered, but somehow fresh at the same time. And further on we heard that sound again, the faint clicking, louder now, and another sound with it, a low, odd humming that seemed to pulse, stopping and starting. It was coming from just ahead. Curiosity pulled us forward, against the feeling in our gut that said turn back. Pushing past the trees with the symbols, we moved slower, quieter, towards the sounds. The woods got even thicker, the ground uneven. We heard footsteps then, not ours, moving parallel to us, just out of sight in the dense trees, heavy steps. Not animal. They stopped when we stopped, moved when we moved. The feeling of being watched turned into certainty. Something was out here with us, hidden, following. We froze, tried to listen. The footsteps stopped. The woods went silent, too. Silent. Every hair on my arm stood up. I felt eyes on me, strong, unseen. I slowly turned my head towards where I heard the footsteps. Through a gap in the leaves, I saw it, a flash of dark color, maybe a coat, maybe just shadow, moving quickly behind a tree trunk, gone instantly. They saw us. Panic flared hot and fast. Go. I hissed. We spun around and ran back the way. We came, pushing back through the brush, towards where we thought the stream was, towards the distant trail. Branches whipped at our faces, caught on our packs. We stumbled, fell, scrambled back up. behind us, we heard it crashing through. The woods gaining on us. The footsteps, fast now, and that low, strange hum pulsing right behind them. We ran blindly, lungs burning, losing all sense of direction in our fear. The sounds of pursuit were right behind us, closer, closer. We burst into a small, empty spot. In the woods, uneven ground, I looked back over my shoulder. A tall, dark shape lunged from the trees at the edge of the clearing, moving impossibly fast. I tripped, fell hard onto the ground just as the shape reached the clearing edge. Story ends here for the disappearance. When we didn't come back from our planned trip, our families called the police. A search started quickly. They found our car parked at the trailhead. They followed the trail, found our campsite by the stream. Our tents were set up, packs were there. Our phones were found in a dry bag, dead batteries, no sign of us. The search spread out, involving police, trained search teams, dogs, even a helicopter. Days passed. They searched the main trail, the area around the camp. They found where we had left the trail, following the stream. They pushed through the thick brush there. Searchers found the old trees with the strange symbols scratched into the bark. They followed the signs of our frantic run through the woods. The broken branches, the disturbed leaves, it led them to a small clearing. But in that clearing, where we had last been seen before, nothing, no sign of us, no blood, no signs of a struggle, nothing to show what happened. The dogs that were brought in seemed scared of that spot, wouldn't go past the edge of the clearing, whimpering. They lost our scent there completely. The search teams combed the area around the clearing for days, finding nothing. After weeks of searching with no leads, no trace, the official search was called off. Our families were left with no answers, only questions, the police suggested. We might have gotten lost further out, maybe fell or were hurt by an animal, but our families knew we knew the woods, knew how to handle ourselves. They couldn't explain the strange sounds, the symbols, the feeling we had talked about before we left. Rumors began to spread in the small towns nearby, whispers about that section of woods. Some say things live out there that shouldn't, things that don't like being found, things that take people who wander too far off the path. The woods returned to their silence, but it's a different kind of quiet now, a quiet that feels like it's guarding a terrible secret, the mystery of what happened. To us out there remains, buried somewhere deep in the trees,